So again, kind of going back to where I was in college, I was so disconnected from what, I was meant to do. I think,
Mm.
so rewinding back to just growing up when I was little, I always enjoyed writing. That was my thing. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed speaking. Literally, like as a child, I would speak to adults and they would ask my parents, like, oh my gosh, how is she so eloquent? How does she speak so well?
That's
Like,
so
is she
cool.
going to grow up and speak when she grows up? And, this would time and time again carry out throughout my life. Like, I would give an internship presentation back when I was in like high school, and people would be like, oh my God, public speaking, that's your thing. And I was just like, really? Like, I don't understand how to make that a career. That's not like it doesn't fit into like a job position title typical type of thing. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not realistic, So I kind of brushed that off because society pushes you into this category of doing what's realistic, like what you said, like what's practical. And I think it pushes you so far out from your dreams that all those cliches that are like, if you believe it, then you can achieve it. Those seem so far-fetched and out there. But then where I am now with like just understanding, mindset development and law of attraction, I'm like, well, those are real things. Those cliches actually have meaning, but it's a reframe of your mind that only gets you to understand that. So for myself, this was something that I was aware of my whole life. I got to college. I, was surrounded by obviously a social environment. So there were a lot of distractions. There was a lot of noise around me. There was a lot of talk of getting into the big four tech companies, second, third round interviews, polished LinkedIn profiles, ideal resumes. And that's the world that I got sucked into. And that was my fault. That wasn't anyone else's fault but mine. And maybe arguably that was a part of what I had to go through to get to where I am now. I also believe that. But I think being away from that environment, it was only March. It was when quarantine hit and like everything, the world turned upside down. And they were like, yeah, your classes are going to be online now. Like, you're not going to be in school. And me being an introvert and like socially anxious, I was like, let's go. Like, I've been waiting for this moment. Like, literally, everyone was so sad because it was like our senior year. They're like, our senior year's gone. And I was like, you know what? Let's go. Like, I'm going to make the most of it. So I really came home. I really analyzed, like, evaluated all those conversations that I had with certain people and where I was and the offers that I had from typical tech companies that I thought I would have taken. And I was like, this just all seems so wrong. Like, the more I thought about it, the more wrong it felt in my gut. And then for me, the transition was literally at home over quarantine when I had time to sit in my thoughts. And that's what led to YouTube. That's what led to the podcast, the TikTok videos, my nonprofit that I like, everything just kind of pieced together.
Wow.
And I wanted to address this as well. Like, for myself, it was like a gut feeling type of thing. And I think this is the same for everyone. Your gut is like the most powerful. Like, it picks up on everything. It's kind of like your overall compass in life. But people are so disconnected from their gut and intuition because they surround themselves with the noise. So for myself, I was so not listening to my gut all of college because I was in my head too much about who I wanted to be to appeal to others. And then when quarantine hit, being at home, I was like, I don't care about any of that. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I need to care about what I think of myself. I need to redefine success. I literally, like, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, what is success to me and not anyone else. And I realized that I was on the wrong path for so long. And that's how now I'm doing everything without a care. I'm so confident in not going back to that path again. And that, it reflects like in my body, it reflects in my aura and my energy. And those are things that, like, in college, I was always low energy. I was always drained, and it was like a physiological thing. And now I'm like up and ready to go. I wake up every morning and I'm like, I can't wait to have this call today. Like, today I woke up and I was like, yes, my podcast, like, let's go, And it's little things like that where you wake up and you're genuinely looking forward to your day and your body has enough energy to boost you. I think that's so important as well. Just listening to your body, listening to what you already know about yourself. So that's what I would say, happened to me. I had to go through all of college being disconnected to ultimately now connect. And that's why I was kind of interested in hearing your perspective, because I know you're still in college. So I'm like, how do you like balance that? Maybe you're just more connected with yourself and you hold your ground better than I did. I feel like I didn't hold my ground well enough. But I wanted you to answer that just to help the viewers out there who are in high school, who are in college, who are still surrounded by that environment, who may have dreams that are a little bit more ambitious or out there or not as acceptable to the general norms. Like, what advice would you give for them to just, hold it together? What do you do? Because I feel like you're doing a wonderful job at it.
That's very kind of you. So first of all, thank you so much for sharing. I think you dropped a bunch of gems on us, a bunch of gold, especially the part where you said you're too much in your head thinking about who you're trying to be, which is great. But then all of a sudden when you say what I'm trying to be in order to appeal to others, it's like, whoa, like now we're getting into a scary territory, which is what many people go through, which is what I went through. And I feel like that's something that so many people can relate in that sense. Going back, if I was to go back to when I was younger, I remember it was around middle school. So when you were telling your story, I couldn't help but smile because I was like, man, I can hear so many similarities. I swear to God, it was middle school, grade 7. My teacher, Mr. Edwards, I just did a presentation on something. And he looked at me, he's like, Daniel, you're a good public speaker. I was like, thank you, Mr. Edwards. Grade 8, again, teacher, hey, you're a good public speaker. And then I came to the point of where my math grades were terrible. Science was blah. My gym was good. I was good at gym.
Yeah.
Public speaking.
Maybe NBA isn't too far out. Who knows?
Right. But thank you. We're 5'7". We'll do what we can. But, it was just at some point I was like, you know what, Daniel, I suck at a lot of things, but everybody has something that they're really good at. Public speaking is my thing. And I don't mean to sound braggadocious and arrogant. That's not like that. Everyone has a thing. My thing was just that. That's something where I felt I loved it. I loved the adrenaline. I loved being up there, the eye contact, the body language. Anyways, I'm preaching to the choir. You already know. So, talking to a fellow, loving public speaker person, you go throughout high school, you're like, man, I'm good at this, but I never thought of it as a career, right? Because when you think to yourself, I like speaking in front of people, well, what comes to mind, right? Like entertainment, do you want to be on a stage? Like, are you going to dance or what, have a talk show? Like, what the hell? And when people ask, hey, what do you want to do? My only mindset was like, well, I want to speak in front of people. And the people who, really cared for me, looked out for me, they said, well, Daniel, you want to speak in front of people? Law is the way to go. I said, really? So yeah, you can be a lawyer, you can speak in front of a jury. I was like, well, I want to speak in front of people and I want to make good money. I guess law is the only option then. If it's between being a lawyer, doctor, and engineer, I guess obviously be a lawyer. So I was like, that's the way to go. So whoever would ask, even until last year, I would say, yeah, I'm going into like law. I'm just gonna do something random, at university. Doesn't matter what I study, just for a prereq into law school. And then I swear to you, I get to grade 11. I remember this so vividly. Mr. Chupo, if you're listening or watching to this, bless your soul. And we get into his class. This was English 11, and we're doing these current event speeches. And I remember I go up there, I do a speech. We do one like once a week. And I remember after the first one, he kind of sits me down and he goes, Daniel, what are your plans after high school? And I go, oh, I'm thinking of going to law. And he just kind of bites his lip and he goes, Daniel, why don't you do something on stage? And I go, what? He goes, Daniel, are you sure? Like acting or like anything, something where you're speaking in front of people, like having a morning show, having a talk show. And I remember I looked into his eyes and I said, Mr. Chupoy, that's not very practical. And I walked away. But there was a deep part of me inside that just like reacted when he said that, because I felt like like that gut feeling that was like, yes, like, oh my God, like yes, like that's it. And anyways, it wasn't until I graduated high school and like me and like many of my friends, I really didn't know what I was going to do, and it was a question of anxiety almost, because I knew I liked public speaking, right? I wasn't sure what the rest of my life was going to look like. I wanted to make money. Everyone's telling me the people who don't go to university and college, basically, if you're not in the 1% of people, you're going to end up homeless. That was the script. Yeah. That was the script, right? It was like, if you don't go there, I would say, well, what about YouTubers? That's the 1%. Well, what about small business owners? That's the 1%. And a lot of them, they're not wrong, right? It's not easy to be a YouTuber. It's not easy to be a business owner. The majority of them fail. However, I think it's really, really important that, anyways, long story short, I get to UVic, right? And I'm learning about, again, psychology. And I'm like, whoa, like I love this. I don't think I will love anything as much as I love psychology and mental health. I'm like, forget law. I'm just going to do this. And if I want to keep on studying, I'll just, study psychology in grad school or something, become a counselor or become a clinical psychologist, whatever. And this was good because it is societally acceptable because I'm still studying. I'm still in school. So that was easy. So whenever people ask, Daniel, what are you going to do? My immediate thing is like, oh, well, I'm studying psychology right now. I would love to do like coaching or counseling of sorts. I'd love to teach somewhere. But in my head, when I do that from 9 to 5, my other goal is, well, then I'll go home and then I'll set up my own business. I'll do my own coaching. I'll do my own teaching online. So I make the curriculum, you know what I mean? And then I can write a book and I can do this and that. But unfortunately, you just get to a place where you kind of give people an inch, when they're like, hey, Daniel, like, what do you? So my advice to anyone listening to this who has an ambitious dream is be careful saying it to everybody. So you shouldn't, in my opinion, these are my 2 cents. So, hey, what do you want to do? Don't just blurt out your hopes and dreams in front of them. Maybe give them a taste. Be like, oh, you know what? I find psychology interesting. Or, oh, the options are open. I don't want to say anything right now because my mind will change. But as soon as I think of something, I'll let you know. BS, lie to them. Like, just don't, just keep it to yourself. You do you. But please do not think that the whole world is against you. There are people that also think the way that you do. Whether you got to reach out on social media, whether you're lucky enough to have family members or friends who think alike, that's great. But please, if you are in an environment where the people around you do not support your dreams, please do not kill it. Just put it to the side, guard it. When it's small, just guard it. Guard it, take care of it, protect it, keep it low, and I promise you, you're going to meet people who will help you water your flower, if you will, and turn it into a tree for you.